Welcome, y'all, to another episode of the Maroon Bison Presents, the Southern Comfort Podcast. Kev, how you doing?
Doing good, brother. How you doing?
Feeling good, feeling great. First, OutKast,
Yes.
Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Round of applause to our big bros. Congratulations, gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
Happy to announce they are inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
They're doing it.
I have already put out requests and calls to figure out
Your seat,
my
Yeah.
ticket. That's just something I don't want to miss.
Are they going to perform? I think.
Hell no.
So, because typically the honorees, people perform.
Some do, some don't.
They
People
don't
perform.
actually perform their own stuff.
Yeah.
And see, that's the thing with them. Like, nobody can do their stuff. It's not going to be good. They shouldn't let other people.
You know who I would love to see do some. I would love to see like a Janelle Monáe, Bruno Mars would be dope. Bruno Mars and old boy.
You know,
they would be dope.
That could, or what's her name? I always say it wrong. Doechii. Now they would need to do like their own take on it.
Yes.
And don't they're trying to sound like them, but you know what? They have the chops and the ability to do that. That would actually be dope. But you know, the people that put these shows together, are they smart enough? Because remember when you had the Super Bowl here and it was Maroon 5, you in Atlanta.
That was also off the heels of Colin, and a lot of people were protesting, right? And so,
but whatever, that don't look good. Maroon 5 and you in Atlanta.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
I think after that year is when Jay-Z stepped in, was like, so yeah, no, I think it'll be dope. It'll be good.
Mm-hmm.
Happy to see it. I would like to see, some spotlight on the rest of the members of the Dungeon family. DF is like the stable or crew of OutKast. They come out of the DF Dungeon family world, which is Goody Mob, which is CeeLo, Timo, Big Gip, Cujo, my big brothers, Sleepy Calhoun, the producers, Organized Noise, Sleepy Brown, rest in peace to Big Brother We Girl Wade, Ray Murray. Killer Mike is a part of that crew. People don't know Future is also a member of Dungeon Family, has it tatted on his arm.
Yep.
And so you hear this term Dungeon Family, DL, first generation, second generation. Listen, I could go on and on and on and on and on about the big bros, but I'm happy to say, Georgia has some more members to add to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Definitely so. And you said CeeLo Green, it made me think about that concert we went to and how good it was. And CeeLo, it was a tribute to James Brown. So it was CeeLo Green doing all James Brown songs. And it was incredible because James is like also a Georgian. One of my favorite artists of all time. I wish CeeLo would actually record some of that. Because it was one of the best concerts I've been to, and that venue was dope.
Listen, it's one of the nicer concert venues in the city. I don't understand why we don't have more, but I understand why we don't have more, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? But like for Atlanta and for Georgia to be such a musically inclined place, you would think that we would have a lot more better concert venues.
Well, but what I like about it is it's so many different spots, and they all have like a vibrancy and like an aesthetic to them. And because even like Chastain Park, like I love Chastain Park. We saw seen Alicia Keys there. We saw Lenny Kravitz.
Nah, I wish I could seen that.
Lenny is worth it. I guess, what is Lenny like to us? He's like your cousin. Like he's from the hood, but not of it. Is he one of the kind of cousins?
For point in case, his mom, is that what his mom and his dad?
Roxy Roker.
Were basically the Jeffersons, living in a deluxe apartment in the sky. So that's exactly who he was.
And Roxy Roker is one of them black mamas that definitely whipped you. You can tell Lenny grew up.
He probably wears the belt that she whooped him with.
Probably on stage.
Yeah.
Right? So, but no, man, but yeah, kudos to to OutKast, and what I like about it is, like, you know, one of the things we complained about earlier is like they feel like they take so long to give folks this, and I love that OutKast isn't like old and falling apart, and they still get this. Like, why y'all waiting until they 80? Like, they clearly qualify. Give it.
Because other thing about OutKast that I love is they never really oversaturated themselves,
No,
right?
no, because when you look at it, the catalog ain't that big. It ain't that many. It's kind of like Michael Jackson, right? When you go back and you really look at how many albums Michael Jackson had, it really ain't that many.
It ain't that
It's
many.
just that 7 of them 10 songs were number ones, biggest hits in the world.
Right.
And OutKast is kind of like the same way. It's really not that much music. It's just really good.
Southern Playalistic, ATL, Stankonia, Idlewild, Speaker Box, The Love Below, 5 album.
I'm like, they don't even have 10. For sure they don't have 10.
Wow.
You see what I mean? And look at that.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah,
Look at that.
yeah.
And for that to be a rap act, right? And to be in the Hall of Fame off of 5 albums. You know.
So I think we probably wasted, we could waste
We could do
a whole episode.
just on the, and in fact, hey, maybe write that down. Maybe we'll come back and do that.
In other additional news, I guess some would say, more important news or whatever. We got a black pope.
We do have a black pope.
We have a black pope.
We do. They're not saying it that way. But
according to their rule, one drop means you're black.
He has Creole lineage, is what they're saying.
The baby.
They're not saying he's black.
So he's Lil Wayne cousin?
He has Creole lineage I think on his mama's side.
Cedric Richmond cousin?
Probably.
You know he gonna claim.
Probably. I mean, from Chicago. Is it Southside Chicago or just? But I was because what was funny to me about that is like the news broke, and what they led with, of course, was that he was like this American Pope, and then it's like almost a day or two later it set in that like, oh my God. And I thought about that scene in Life when Lil May Rose had her baby, and the doctor came out, and he was like, her daddy was like, "What do we have?" You know, and he said it's a boy and he's a biggin, and she says, "Is he healthy?" She's like, "Oh yeah, he's a biggin," and he ran in there to see it, but the doctor just had this look, and I just felt like that's how there are certain pockets of the population that are finding out about this Creole lineage, and they're looking like that doctor.
Well, first, some of them are looking at what Creole really means, and can they try to justify it?
Well,
listen.
But he black. But
he has a little olive tan. He got a little.
He
like somebody put an Instagram filter on.
Yes, you could tell there's something happening there. But I loved his message. I love that he's carrying forward the tradition of Pope Francis, who was like, you know, one of my. I think in our lifetime we've had good popes. Like John Paul, I thought was really, really good. Francis, and now Leo. And
it's not third pope or fourth pope.
In our lifetime, this is number 3. No, Benedict.
So it's 4.
So yeah, this is our 4th one. I've liked all of them. I know I have because they speak out on social issues, and I know this is one of the things we'll talk about, but like I think one of the criticism of like just church in general, not just the Catholic faith or tradition, all churches, is that they're too insular,
right?
And they only preach to the already converted, and you know there are spaces where their voice is needed on a lot of these issues. And in our lifetime, we had popes that I think kind of push for that. And I think that's something that we need to see more of in religion. And, you know, churches kind of have the same problem that we see in our political institutions, right? Like when people lose faith in those institutions, they leave, they go to other things, they push back, they protest. And the church has had to confront similar crises. And now, given everything that's going on in our political arena, right? Like we need that. We need, you know, church and faith leaders who talk about things, who talk about the gospel
Right.
in a progressive tradition. And I don't mean that necessarily ideologically progressive, but just like, you know, God has a point of view and a perspective on the poor. God has a point of view and a perspective on a lot of the things, and it's nice to see them speaking out.
Well, I guess you're going to see it now, right? The stark differences, even in the same denomination, of theological differences, right? So on one end of the conservative aspect of the Catholic Church, they want to keep things the way it is, the same. Where you have this radical or more modern or liberal end. I'm talking with Pope Francis. Is he Pope Francis the 6th, 7th?
Right. I don't remember. I just remember Pope Francis. I can't.
But it's ushering in this tolerance of LGBTQ rights, more, drawing the line and calling out racism as it is worldwide, right? Like, I think as Americans, we get so centralized thinking that the world revolves around Western culture. And to a degree it does, but religiously, Catholicism as well as, Islamic faith have a stronghold across the world that we can't seem to go beyond our borders and realize.
Yeah.
And right now, I guess this conceptualization and realization that the Pope is from America, right?
Like America, Chicago,
like the Mississippi River, right?
go
Literally,
White Sox, like he like watching the game.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He knows what a deep dish is.
Yeah.
He knows, right? Like at any given moment, he could wake up in Italy and be like, bring me a deep dish.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Likely already has.
No. This over there is great, right?
Well, yeah.
Compared to this.
But my point is, he's you know he eats it.
But I guess, what does this mean for American politics now, right? Like, when you think about it, the evangelical community has had a stronghold on politics, to a larger degree, right? On a national and on a local level, right? When you look at it, on a lot of state legislators are heavily influenced by, the far rights.
Baptist. That's the law.
Well, regionally in the South, right? In the South, that's definitely what it is.
Yeah.
And even when you break down in the Black community, like, religion still plays a huge role in Southern politics, right? I think we were talking about it to this day. What impact does the Black church have on cities like Atlanta, but then on states like Georgia versus your South Carolinas, your Floridas, right? Like, when you look at Florida, you can break Florida down in almost 3 different states. North Florida, under Georgia and Alabama, is totally different from mid Florida and then the Southern Peninsula. Like, oh my God.
And the Keys. Yeah. So the impact that I hope it has is, I hope it encourages more Democrats to get comfortable again articulating our policies and our values through the context and the lens of faith. Because when you listen to the new Pope's messages and the last Pope's messages, right, from a policy standpoint, those are things that are more aligned with what Democrats tend to fight for and advocate for. But we act like we've just conceded faith to Republicans, and I think that was a mistake. And so hopefully it encourages them to be more comfortable and more proactive in talking about our policies through the tenets of our faith, right, and our values. I think that that's part of one of the ways in which the party kind of reclaims its relevancy. The other thing that I hope that I find is interesting too is that the church now, I feel like church has been sort of like in this retreat, like I was just saying about it just being very insular. I hope that it encourages them to get back out at the forefront of these issues, right? Because one of the things that, you know, we've talked about here recently. We talked about boycotts, right? We talked about Target. I mean, the guy leading that is a preacher. It's not the Congressional Black Caucus. It's not a senator. It's not a mayor.
Right.
It's a preacher.
Yeah.
You know, Jabal Bryant.
Yeah.
Right here. He's the one doing it and has helped to galvanize the community in a way that has had an impact. And I hope what people take from that is that the church is still very much a big part of our collective power to influence things, and is needed because, you know, there have to be other vehicles and outlets for change other than the political system, because the way the political system works sometimes it frustrates people.
And it's interesting, right? Like, we've worked with Pastor Bryant a couple of times on campaigns, and
Well, I know him from Baltimore.
right, from Baltimore, and I think Pastor Bryant in Baltimore is totally different than Pastor Bryant here in Georgia and Atlanta.
I feel like he's gotten to just a bigger stage now.
I think he's evolved, which is something you want your pastor to do.
You do. I know in Baltimore he was very, very interested in. We did a lot of work around criminal justice and violence prevention. We could always call upon him to do anything. So we did mentoring programs with him, and we did specific programming and policies that he helped to spearhead, focused on. There was one year while I was there in Baltimore where the majority of the homicides, unfortunately, were African Americans. But within that, something like 90% of those homicides were like black men. And so we did some stuff specifically targeted to just sort of breaking that cycle, which he helped to be a leader in. And then when it was time to do police body cameras, we had to put together a task force to bring that policy to life, and he was on that. So he was very much in criminal justice there, but now it's nice to see him making that economic argument.
And you know, it's interesting. Like, did he really galvanize the Baltimore community as one would hope in terms of like helping turn out the vote, right? Like, you have the parishioners who would do it, but did that reverberate and create the ripple effect that we won as an organizer, that we won hope? Like, how you say, okay, you as a voter, you're supposed to bring 3 people you're responsible for. Did we really see that ripple effect in terms of Baltimore politics? And think about it, the different thing was, it works for different politicians, right? Like, for Ben, did it work for Ben as it did for Marilyn Mosby, or for Brandon, or for Stephanie, or, you know?
He didn't really, you know, him at that time, there were just other more pressing issues like in the city. I don't know. He did stuff around like encouraging people to vote, but it was more on like those policies like I talked about. And you know, so I think he's more involved in that probably now, given that it's Georgia and the vote has more statewide implications here. But again, it's nice though to see he's never been a pastor or a leader that was like unafraid to go out and touch people and be with people, and try to bring people into the fold. And that's what I like both about him, what I like about the new Pope, and what I hope continues to be a trend of where you see the church kind of exerting some leadership and pushing back on some of this chaos in the government.
Well, I mean, even more so now, again, we talked about this the other night, the role that social media now plays in a lot of things. Does it kind of water down, or sort of the content that's being put out there, or the message that's being delivered? And because of social media, he's able to get his message across many platforms in terms of taking away the message of my sermon, right? And so, you know, I definitely appreciate my Morehouse brother. You know, we just got to put it out there. You know, they say Atlanta influences everything. Morehouse influences everything.
Oh, my Lord. If Warnock becomes president, y'all gonna be insufferable, aren't y'all?
Very much so.
Yeah, that's fine.
I,
We were prepared to be the same for Kamala. So
yeah, but it's a difference. It's a difference if it's one that the beautiful part, and I get on this how we do this. And guys, again, the show is called the Maroon Bison Southern Comfort Podcast. You know, for those who are late in the game, it's called that because I went to Morehouse College, which is an all-black male school in Atlanta, Georgia. Kevin, you went to
Howard University, Washington.
Make sure you look in your camera when you talk
Howard
to
University, the Howard University, Washington D.C.
them.
We're the Howard Bison. So
Yeah, we're the Maroon Tigers. Of course, my school was founded first in February of 1867. I think you guys came along.
Congratulations. You were first, but it's about how you feel.
Well, it's no finishing. We're going to continue.
Yeah.
The marathon is forever. But the show's called Maroon Bison. Kevin and I, of course, worked together many years now on political campaigns and just in life in general. And like this show is designed to be, it's about the culture of politics, Southern politics, our upbringing, a lifestyle of growing up and being educated in a Southern school system, a public school system, from two black cities that were ran by, African Americans, majority African American, right? And so our whole lifetime, right? And so it's funny how we hear conversations of people talking about, oh, when was your first black teacher, or when was your first black male teacher? I was like,
right,
elementary school.
And that's funny because for me, I remember my first white teacher. It wasn't until the 4th grade. I went to
fifth.
I went to private. My mom had me in private school till the 3rd grade, Zion Lutheran. So it was private, faith-based, private school until the 3rd grade. All of my teachers, all my everything
were black.
And I didn't have a white teacher until the 4th grade. And I remember going to class the first day and walking in with my mother. Her name was Sharon O'Neill. And she and I walked in, and I remember saying to my mom, I was like, "Mama, she's white." And I remember my mother hitting me, telling me to hush. But it blew my mind. She was like, I loved her. She was one of my favorite teachers ever. But I didn't have one until the 4th grade.
I mean, how many have you had? Because I can count on one hand how many I've had.
A lot. I would have to. I mean, because
really?
because so she, once I left private school, my mom put me in Midfield, which was more white. I would say it's probably like 60-40 when I was in that school system. And the reason she put me in that school system was because the school system I was actually zoned for, I kept getting into fights. They kept trying to jump me into gangs. So she pulled me out of that school system to put me in a different school system. And so from there, I want to say like the majority of my teachers were white. There was a lot of black teachers too, but like the majority were probably white at that point. So from 4th grade to graduating, I had a lot of them.
Yeah, no. Miss Harris, Dr. Roy. That's it.
That was it the whole time.
Miss Harris was 5th grade.
Wow. Miss Clark was my 5th grade. Something about the 5th grade. You always remember that teacher. Yeah.
Dr. Roy was high school. And we call him Ric Flair. He had this white hair like Ric Flair, and he taught math.
Yeah.
And our ignorant asses, you would hear when kids would walk past his classroom that, and you would just hear this randomly, woo. Just like in the hallway, it's like if you're bold enough to do it.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody's gonna come out and say anything. And he just was like, he ate shit.
He's like,
yeah. I think it's Negroes.
But I think one of my most influential teachers was a guy named Mr. Gilmore, and he taught like history and social studies in high school. He was one of our favorite teachers. His wife Mrs. Gilmore actually taught typing, and I remember going back to see him after I had graduated Howard, and he was upset that I wasn't going to law school because he was like, "You should be a lawyer. You're supposed to be a lawyer.
It's not too late.
That's what you're supposed." Yes, it is. When? With what time? When am I going to law school?
You was just talking about getting your doctorate.
That's different. I can do that. Law school, I can. It's too much.
It's 2 years.
Law school is 3 years.
I mean, Kim Kardashian did it in 2.
Okay, well then you let her represent you.
I wouldn't mind.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
I wouldn't mind. I would not make. She getting them off. She getting them off.
No comment.
Okay, back to religious and politics.
No comment.
Religious identity versus religious politics. Is there a difference? Because both conservatism and being liberal derive from the same religious context. If you really think about it.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, they used the Bible to try to justify slavery, right? Like, they were quoting scriptures while they were beating your ass, right? Like, I mean, so in this sense, I wonder, given that the South Carolina primary was not the first primary,
Mm-hmm.
that will be the first time this happens in 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
People are starting to campaign for it now,
Mm-hmm.
right? Westmore is not running, but he is running, but he's not running.
Mm-hmm.
Warnock is now starting to be a little bit more vocal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And given, your mentioning of Jamal Pope and Jamal Pope.
You mean Bryant? I'm like where you going with Jamal?
Jamal Pope was actually.
Where we going with this one? Jamal Pope.
We worked together on the campaign.
Okay. Sure. Let's talk about it.
Jamal Bryant.
Okay.
I just wonder, are we now getting ready to transition now in terms of Democrat politics and the black man and trying to shape what that looks like and what leadership looks like, and with Westmore being background in military, right, and a discipline there, and now Warnock being a little more vocal, and his brother and best friend, Pastor Bryant, as well, trying to lean into more.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting ready to enter midterm elections, right now. Is the rise of the black male politician about to come out, and does that come out of the black church, right? Like,
well, I hope so. I feel like everybody you just named sits at this nexus within politics where we do need to see more energy, particularly on our side. We do need to see more energy and engagement with how we communicate with voters of faith. And we need them excited and engaged in the process, right? And we also need to see more, I think, on like the black male front, right? Like the numbers with black men are troubling, right? And if we continue to see a slide with the black male vote, and it eventually mirrors what we see with the Latino male vote,
and you in a sense of voting Republican,
right, basically leaving the Democrats and voting Republican, like we will not win elections, right? You will be shut out. And when you look at particularly like southern states, right, you see how destructive that is when Democrats are shut out of elections and lose power and influence, and you have the far right that can just go crazy with some of these policies. You see the people that get hurt. You see how those states get left behind. And so we need Westmores. We need Raphael Warnocks. We need Jamal Bryant's. We need to see more black males leading. Randall Woodfins and Brandon Scotts. We need that. And all of them sort of sit at this nexus where they are very comfortable in their own skin. They're very comfortable with who they are as black men. They represent us well. And in their own way, they don't just sort of take stuff laying down from Republicans, whether it's on faith, the poor, or any of it. We need that authenticity. And, I think if any of them, more likely West or Warnock, decide that they want to run for president in a couple of years, I think people will be surprised by the response they get.
Where do you think the black church, the black church, because I still think that evangelicals still have a stronghold on their voting base, their voting bloc, right? Where do you think we lost our way? Like, how did we fall out of being more about the community and helping out and supportive in terms of
from the black church
from the black church perspective?
Um,
Like, when did we lose that stronghold, and why? When you think about it, like we talked about it, the crime bill was passed under the Clinton administration because the CBC was getting pressure from black pastors to do something about crime
black community,
and the black community and drugs, right?
Yeah. I think it's when I just think that at a certain point, it feels like the black church in particular just became insular, and just said, we're just going to kind of focus on these four walls of the church. And we aren't going to go out there in the more activist model or mold. I also think there was a infiltration of the church in the sense that, like, you started to see more of these faith-based initiatives like you saw with George Bush. Well, what happened with a lot of those faith-based initiatives, that also meant money. And so a lot of these black pastors in particular, they got real quiet because it's a lot easier, to replenish that church fund and everything else if you can get some nice government dollars off of it too. And
the fear of, when I started organizing and would try to get churches in the fray, the fear of, I can't say anything because I don't want to lose my status.
Right?
Yeah.
Or even if, and that to me too is a form of infiltration. But if you do it the right way and you say it the way we want you to say it, there's some money here available for you too. So I think all of that kind of played a role in the church kind of stepping back, and becoming more insular. And, we've paid a price for that. And what I hope is happening now is a reemergence of the church saying, no, there's a space and a place for us within the public sphere, within public discourse around these issues and around our politics. And a lot of times the church, they say, I suppose mixed church and state, but I just don't think we have that luxury anymore.
Right.
If you're really committed to God's teaching and God's mission, then you cannot be quiet while you have governments do things diametrically opposed to God's teachings.
Well, they say that, but we always mix church and state, right? On the back of the dollar bill that says, "In God we trust."
Right. And so I think at a certain point we started to act like there was this line that never really existed. We've never operated that way. So it's good to see them trying to reclaim something.
When you talk about that aspect, and we're going to stay rooted, and because this is the Southern Comfort podcast, particularly Southern politics, black politics, and the black church, the two different spectrums within the black church, conservatives versus liberal, right? The anti-LGBTQ speech, the sexism in the black church, how women should be in the pulpit, right? And more rural communities, right? Your black belts in Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi. And when you're going along that, what they call tobacco road or the chitlin circuits, where those pastors were still preaching, that kind of hate.
Yeah.
As opposed to in churches in Atlanta, some churches in Atlanta, and Birmingham and Jackson were preaching more progressiveness of accepting of all.
Yeah.
When good and darn well, the choir director If you want to know what the laugh was about, you got to go to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, at Marone Bison. But again, the choir director,
Yeah.
in most instances,
Yeah.
you know,
won't marry him in this church, but you can, yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm.
But they lead a great choir.
Yep, but you can't get married here.
Right. So, where does that play into now? Because we see it now. Pastor Brian has spoken out against it and about it, right?
Mhm.
Like, but I can take you back to minister meetings that I held in South Georgia with Ambassador Andrew Young and a group of like 40 pastors on coastal Georgia
Mm-hmm.
that had a problem with Michelle Nunn because her position on gay rights.
Yeah.
And he straight up told them, if you can't support her, you can't support that, then I'm not asking for your support of her.
Yeah.
We have to be tolerant, right? Like,
yeah.
and even before we started this thing, you said the ultimate, Jesus was an immigrant.
Yeah. It was.
Right? Like,
Yeah. Yep.
So just like, where is the evolution going to happen now in the Black church, right? Women pastors, Cynthia Hale, Reverend Hale is a dynamic, phenomenal, powerful pastor here in Georgia. And I just wonder, when is that going to evolve? And when are we going to see more women pastors get elected?
Well, I think churches are microcosms of society. And I think that, they go through their own periods of reform and change, and their revolutions that happen within it as well. And so I think that they are on a journey, and I think you are seeing, some advancements. But, like society at large, sometimes it moves slower than what people would like. But I think what is happening now is, despite there being those differences, I think what we're seeing now in the world is such an assault on the core teachings of God that you're seeing a lot of them say, we'll come back to all the things you just said. We don't have really time to kind of do that part right now, because we have to be all hands on deck. And we need them. We need them. And so, but we also have to talk about too, I think part of the reason some of those types of reforms you just said are slower, which is something we'll probably talk about a little bit more, is that African Americans are more conservative than we vote. And if you just were to survey just Black church voters, they're not the ones for gay marriage, right? They're not.
Or abortion.
They're not. They're
or immigration.
Their positions very much mirror evangelical whites, right? And so I'm not surprised that a lot of the advancements you talked about within the church, when we're going to see it, they conservatives.
And the only thing that changes their mind on something is the economic value or the economic policy in something. And it may not even be strong enough for them to change their viewpoint.
And then, they also care about their children. They care about their children. They care about their young people, right? And when they're not seeing money and resources, go into their educations and different things like that, like, they speak out on that. They tend to get a more favorable audience with Democrats. So they push from that side of it. Even though they're also more conservative, though, on some of these other kind of like social issues. And so those social issues are not what motivate them to turn out to vote. It's not why they go vote. But it does create this interesting dichotomy in terms of how they move as a political force and as a political power in their relationship with the Democratic Party.
I just wonder with this new I think Trump, he's controlled by the media. It's like whatever's hot in the media kind of is how his flag blows. I wonder, does his tone change now that America has now that the Pope is American, right? Does he begin to like?
I think no, but what I think he's threatened by the Pope because, you know, the White House tweeted out that stupid and offensive picture of him dressed like the Pope. And I think that that's because the Pope, the way the Pope just had power and just kind of shut down and got all the attention on himself, Trump feels threatened by stuff like that. So
Was that before or after the Pope got that?
that was
before.
after.
That was after?
That was after. When there was a new Pope, the new Pope's getting all the attention is because all he does is react to 24-hour news. The Pope was dominating. So he tweeted that stupid picture. And so I think he's threatened by the Pope, but it also shows the power that the Pope has.
Yep.
Not just as a religious leader, but also as a political figure. And kudos to him for using his voice in that way and speaking to the broader world. He's not just speaking to people of faith. He's not even just speaking to Catholics. He recognizes the times that we're in and the power of his voice, and he's using it to speak in an authentic way about the true values and teachings of God. And the church has not always chosen that route. So and I don't mean that just for the Catholic Church, I mean the church broadly. So kudos to him, and we need it right now.
So he's in his mid-60s.
Mm-hmm.
So 20 years from now, we possibly could be looking for a new Pope, 20, let's say next 20, 25 years.
Yeah.
In that time, do you think we will see a lady Pope, a woman Pope?
No. I think you might see a fully black one, but
Oh boy. That'd be, I mean, listen, a fully black one.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Right now we got the Barack Obama Pope.
No, we already know exactly. Talking about his lineage,
Um,
Creole. It was so funny. He has Creole lineage. I'm like, you mean he black? Is he black? That's what that means.
Etouffee? All right, so, you know, this is an interesting topic, I'm sure, as we, in the coming months and years, right, we're going to revisit this. We're going to revisit this again, hopefully, because this is a message to the following people: Reverend Stephen Green, Reverend Eldrin Morrison, Pastor Jamal Bryant, Reverend Raphael Warnock. Who else am I forgetting? That's going to come to me. Those 4 people. That 4. We want y'all on the show. We're going to get y'all on the show.
Absolutely.
I got y'all cell numbers, and I will hound you. And you know I will. But your voice is needed, not only in the community, but on the show as well, so people can understand and get just an in-depth conversation. I think out of the 4 of those I just named, I know 3 of them definitely went to HBCUs because they're all graduates of Morehouse. And I think Pastor Morrison went as well. He's a dope brother in the AME Zion Church, right? And even, you know, breaking down those listen. But
I grew up AME Zion.
You did? No. Okay. What's the home church?
Bethel AME Zion, Brighton, Alabama.
Oh,
technically still is. I never joined another one, so.
Well, there you go.
And I still pay they still hit me up for my membership dues. So.
And you still pay it?
Yeah, but it was funny because this was some real black church stuff. My wife, Jill, has never been to that church with me. But when we got the membership thing this time, we had to pay one for me and one for her. And I'm like, but she's never been or signed up. Oh, no, it's automatic once you get married. I'm like, what? So, yeah, so she's a member too.
Oh, went to church. She went to my home church the first time a couple weeks ago.
Nice.
First time. I mean, she's known the pastor because, I mean, he's like a father to me.
Yeah.
But she's never heard him preach.
Yeah.
And he's also been going through chemo. And so, you know, when she moved here, it was COVID. And I didn't even have the energy to like...
Yeah.
do anything, and just like Sundays I was just really resting. And finally was like, I want to go to church. Let's go to church. She went, and then we went back to the house with them and chilled the entire day. She played with the kids. Just was. It was great.
Yeah.
Felt good. So it's time for that. How we close out every show.
Yeah.
Mamba moment.
I'm gonna give it to the new Pope and Jamal Bryant. So I got two of them. I'm gonna give it to both of them for all of the reasons that we've already said. In this episode, I hope they continue to speak out and lead. Their voices is definitely needed.
Okay. I'm going to give mine to my niece, Skylar McDaniel. She just graduated Clayton State College. We did her graduation this weekend, and the Mamba moment is about someone who has gone through a lot, relentless, dedicated, and we lost my brother 2 years ago. That was her dad. Everybody has their problems. He had his problems. But for the last 5 years of her graduating high school and going through COVID, and having to learn online and go through college online, and she went to Georgia State first and did not have a great experience because of the COVID situation, and had to reset, and has gone through a lot, and I'm so damn proud of her. She crossed AKA. She got accepted into a master's program. So she's on the right path, and she asked me to go to a first generation graduate ceremony of hers. Her mother didn't go to school. Her daddy didn't go to school. Her father is not here. He wasn't able to move her to Georgia State. He was limited a lot of things that he could do, both physically and mentally. And just to see her, continue and be resilient and push through and graduate.
Mamba.
So, Skylar, congratulations, my love.
Yes.
Love you. She probably has never listened to an episode. So I will clip this and I will put it up as one of our clips and send it to you so you can get your friends to listen. But without, further ado, this is the end of today's episode. Peace, y'all. Appreciate it.
Peace.